Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Authors on the Air. I'm your host, James Latwell, part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. And it's my pleasure to have with us today Alex Finlay with his new book, If Something Happens to Me. This is a fantastic new book that I think you're going to want to check out after we talk with Alex here. So, welcome to the show, Alex.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jim. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's I mean, you have this knack of giving us, I mean, these propulsive, page-turning thrillers, and every one of them makes these most anticipated lists. And I mean, this one, I was really happy to see a Publishers Weekly starred review that came out talking about, and if I get the quote here right, relentless pacing, impressive characterizations, and the author's knack for surprise. I mean, that says a lot coming from a trade review from within the industry. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's nicer than they usually are to me, so I'll take it. You know?
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. But yeah, I understand you have some news that you found out today about the
Well,
book.
yeah. I woke up to this morning to news that we made the USA Today bestseller list, which is always exciting, and and it's I really want to thank all the readers who picked up the book in these early weeks because it really helps a lot.
Yeah, well, they're in for a treat. I mean, the ones who haven't picked it up, they're in for a treat, and the ones who already have, I, you know, this book, as writers, we read a little differently, and we kind of anticipate where things are going to happen and twists are going to happen. But I had a couple of oh my god moments when when I was reading this book that you really surprised me. And I think readers are going to get a kick out of it. Could you tell folks a little bit about the story in this book?
Sure, and well, thanks for saying that. It's a high praise from a great writer like yourself, and we always struggle. I know if you're like me, Jim, trying to surprise in this market of really great writers and really great readers. Thriller and
Yeah,
mystery readers. They're on the lookout for the surprise, and so it's a tricky business, and you never know until after the book's out if you got it right or not.
yeah,
As far as the book goes, it's called "If Something Happens to Me." The basic setup is it begins the prologue begins. It's two teenagers just graduated from high school. It's a summer night. They're parked on what's like a lover's lane type area, and it's their goodbye. They're both off to different colleges, and it's one of those summer nights of filled with humidity and hope. I think I said in the opening, and then the unexpected happens. The door to the car rips open. The boy Ryan is hit on the head
mm,
and basically dragged out of the car. And the next thing he knows, he wakes up. It's the morning. The car's gone. His girlfriend's gone. And turns out for the next 5 years, there's just no sight of the girlfriend or the vehicle. And as would happen, it's always somebody, the usual, it's always the husband, always the boyfriend type of mentality is everyone thinks he did something to
right.
the girlfriend, and he's lived under this cloud of suspicion. And so that's really where the book starts. It's 5 years later. He just graduated his first year of law school, and he is kind of trying to escape this past he has.
Yeah, I mean that sums it up really nicely. And Ryan has been kind of like, as you said, living under this cloud of suspicion for the last 5 years. I mean, he's moved, he's changed his name. Um, all of those things combined really create a lot of tension in what's to come. But how did you come up with that setup? Because it's really
Yeah,
quite effective.
no, thank you. It's really, I always start the book with a prologue, and that this one, often with my books, like Every Last Fear or The Night Shift, I can pinpoint exactly where I got the idea when I wrote the prologue, which is usually my process for where the book's going to take me. I do the prologue, and then I kind of go from there, like who are the characters going to be and what's the story going to be about. This one I don't totally remember. I wrote the prologue, and then I just kind of had to figure out who this kid was. And a lot of it's inspired by the internet will convict someone with no evidence, and often, when somebody is under a cloud of suspicion like that, the police will put the pressure on, rightly so, in most instances. In this case, he just happened to have a good lawyer who, basically shut it all down, and it kind of inspired him to go to law school. And that's kind of where we find him. He's just still dealing with this constant harassment or suspicion online, or when people who he met them, so much so that he changed his last name. And he's basically he blames himself for what happened. He didn't save the day. His memory is really hazy, and all he can remember is this odd memory of two hands pulling him out of the car. And the strange thing is they're each missing their pinky finger. And so he kind of thinks that's, a made up memory or a monster kind of, and sure enough, when he's done with law school, he's on a trip with his classmates in Italy. He sees the guy with the missing pinky fingers, and it all kind of explodes from there.
Yeah, it's really well done. Now you have a knack of pacing in this book and your others, and it's relentless, but it doesn't leave the reader exhausted. I mean, you do it very very well, very effectively to kind of draw readers in and keep them turning the pages, but not so that they need a break and have to walk away for a while. I mean, that's kind of a skill. How do you manage that? Because that's really quite well done.
Oh, thank you. No, I mean, I think it's, the pacing. I think that as thriller and mystery writers, we've had to deal with this change in the world, and that attention spans are a lot less than they used to be. Mine is, I know, but from the phone and from just day to day, I think studies show it. So for me, I want the readers to want to turn to the next chapter. And so I do short chapters. I do, and I'm just naturally, as spent years as a lawyer, writing legal briefs as an appellate lawyer. And that kind of taught me that you got to get to the point. You've got to move fast, because judges they don't have the time to read
Right.
voluminous briefs. But it was a good training ground, I think, for thrillers, in that it forced me to really think about saying as much as I can with as few words as possible. And that requires you to paint a picture in somebody's mind, to really give them what they need to fill in the gaps with
Got it.
their
Got it.
imaginations. And so that the way I write is, um, I started writing as a lawyer on the subway every morning and every night. And so my chapters or my scenes would always be basically the time it took from one stop to downtown DC. And then so the way I had started naturally was conducive to short, punchy scenes, just because that's the time I had.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. And you've kind of continued that a little bit. I think we've talked before about your writing process. That I found just really unique is you do a lot of writing while you're walking, and it's on your phone.
Yeah, everyone is always kind of surprised by this. It makes me, I was reluctant at first to talk about it, because it does make you sound like a hack, that you're just like writing a novel on your phone, on your, tapping away. But it was really, I think, attributable to the early years when I was writing, that I was on the subway, and I was standing, and at the time, it was like a BlackBerry, and so that was good enough training to as technology got a little better. But now, yeah, I basically, for the first draft, I mean, I don't write the whole book, but on the phone, but for first drafts of scenes, I think about them a lot. And once I know what the scene is going to be, then I'm a pretty fast writer, but I need to be kind of moving. And so I go on these mega walks, my wife calls them. She's always worried I'm going to get hit by a car. But I just write and tap on my phone. Everyone tells me, well, there's, you could use voice software. There's all these better ways to do it, but this is just how I've done it. And I think it'll probably be the way I do it until I'm no longer doing this unusual job we have.
That's that is just so cool. I've tried to do when I heard you talk about it before. I've tried to do that, but I use the voice stuff. That just wasn't me. So my hats off to you for being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, the thing we all hear from you, talk to so many writers too, and we all have
Yeah,
writer friends. Everybody has some different way they do it, and
yeah,
I'm with you. Whatever gets the words on the page. For me, it just, even though half of the stuff on the phone turns out to be garbage, for me, it's like I do it all week, and at the end of the week, I dump it all into a Word document, and I have a
mhm,
lot of words on the page. It may be terrible words, but it's, for me, it gets me it takes away the
yeah.
intimidation of the blank page. But it's certainly not for everybody, and I wouldn't totally recommend it to everybody either. If you don't have good situational awareness, you could really hurt yourself.
Yeah, I could see that. Um, back to the book for a second. Um, One of the things that I appreciate in your books is you have this you tell the story in multiple POV, multiple point of view, but you do it in a way that's kind of this kaleidoscope that and when it and I mentioned before, when it all ties together, it's like you have these absolute, plot drops. It's like, wow, they all come together. Now, is that something that you plan for, or it just kind of happens as you're writing this organically?
It's a little of both. I like multi-point of view because it keeps me interested. Like, when I get tired of one character, I can go to another. The trick, of course,
Right.
is to not make it too confusing for the readers. If my books, I always tell people, you can't read my books over a month period of time. You will be confused. Like, they're designed to read in a day or two, and hopefully you don't want to put them down, but either way, you should read them in a day or two, because you really need, your brain can only take so many kind of storylines going at the same time. But I plan it a little bit, but it's organic. And I always say I kind of take a book in three parts. I just think, because thinking about just writing a novel, I don't know about you, Jim, but like, it's so intimidating. I want to write this novel. So I just think about, I'm going to write the beginning, I'm going to write the middle, and I'm going to write the end. And I take it in those
Yep.
three parts, which makes it less intimidating. And so for each part, I will have a loose idea of where things are going. But, it's always nice to have surprises come along the way, as you're writing, because if I'm surprised, hopefully the reader will be too. This one has, probably of all my books, a bigger twist than I've ever done before. So I did
Yeah.
have to plan out a lot more than I ordinarily would.
Yeah. No, it's very, very effective, and I think when people do read this, they're gonna really appreciate that because it's really well done.
Thank you.
Um, Now, what advice would you give to writers just now trying to break into the scene, for aspiring writers? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is always daunting. You have to be prepared for rejection, and you can't go to a writer conference without bumping into somebody who is, who's gone through the ringer, as we all have. I did. So I
Right.
think you just have to
Right.
prepare yourself that publishing works at a glacial pace, that
Yeah.
rejection is just part of the process. And I think that determines whether you're a writer. If you can go through all of that and keep going, then you're a writer, in my view, because it does take a lot. And I know people who wrote 7 books before they got published. I don't know that I have that in me.
Yeah.
Um, I had at least one before I was ever published that I wrote. Um, and as far as like advice, just day-to-day advice, I'm not, I don't get paid by the International Thriller Writers Organization or anything like that. But I will say, I wish that I had gotten involved in the organization much, and it was more in its infancy at the time when I was starting out. But just taking the classes at Thriller Fest or Craft Fest, which is a conference every
Right.
year in New York, um, it not only you're going to hear from great writers and get great advice, but you're treating it like a job, because this is a job, it's a profession, and
Right.
and like most questions. You have trade conferences and you meet and you network, you do panels. But there you also have the opportunity to learn from people who have been successful and also pitch to agents your work, which is, and Thriller Fest has so many success stories. I think it would have cut my journey off in half if I had known about it or it had been more established by then. So I know you're big into ITW, Jim, as well, but I just can't say enough about the organization, the people, and the conference.
Yeah, it's fantastic. ITW, I don't know how they've managed to bring the people together that they have, but it's when I first broke into the business, I anticipated this cutthroat competitive marketplace where everybody was competing for bookshelf space. And I mean, it's shocked me that's not at all the case. I mean, everybody really supports one another. And yeah, the group at Thriller Fest and International Thriller Writers, everybody is there to help one another. I mean, it's an
Yeah,
amazing
I
group.
mean, I don't know of any other business. Yeah, I don't know any other business where technically competitors. We're all in some form competitors because we're competing. There's only so many books readers can buy, um,
Right.
and we're vying for some of the same readers. But there's just none of that, and I think it's attributable to the thing I was talking about before about most people who finally get published have been through a lot, and they recognize that and they want to give back and they want to help. And I have just, it's not just, people like me that want to help at the Thriller Fest. When I was starting, Lee Child, created Jack Reacher, Lisa Gardner,
Right.
Bob Dugoni, people who had nothing to gain by helping a new writer, went out of their way to help and give encouragement and support. And I find that that's just basically what you get at Thriller Fest to this day. And I've been going
Yeah.
every year for 10, 12 years now.
Yeah. 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 It's I look forward to it every year, and it's a wonderful thing. What's coming up next for you? I mean, and maybe you can talk about. I know your last book. All of your books have been optioned for film, but your last one went into development, did it not?
Every Last Fear is in development. That was the first book. The
First
other
book.
ones are all in some stage of the process, and you never know if anything's going to come of it. It's fun to see, and
Yeah.
it's the only thing. I have kids in their 20s, and it's you spend all this time toiling writing the book. The only thing they want to brag to their friends about is like if some other person is going to do something with them. But so there's that. And then as far
Yeah.
as what's going on, I just finished the first week of my tour for If Something Happens to Me, and I met a lot of great readers and at Murder by the Book and Poison Pen and
Right.
Interbang Books, which are great bookstores. I have an event this week with Sarah Pekkanen, and otherwise wrapping up the next book, which will come out in probably around this time next year, which is tentatively titled
Nice.
Parents Weekend. And it is about a group of 5 families who the parents go to a college, the freshman parents weekend you have when your kids first starting school, and all their kids disappear. And so that's the
Oh
gist
my.
of the conflict that starts the story.
Yeah. I love it. That's great. We'll finish off with something that I'm calling three quick hits, and that's three quick questions about your character. We'll put it in Ryan.
Okay.
We'll use Ryan for this one. But what's Ryan's favorite cocktail?
Oh, he's a college kid, so probably a low end beer.
Okay, I could see that. How about his favorite music?
You're freezing up just a bit in case there's a delay
Okay.
in my responses.
Yeah, there's how about Ryan's favorite music?
Ooh, favorite music. Well, yeah, that's a good one. All of I write. I love to write people in their 20s because I want to relive my youth. As far as his music goes, he might have my taste, which would be like for him would be vintage, like Linkin Park and those
Got it.
type of bands. Only because
Yeah,
those are my
I
favorite.
think
I haven't thought about.
I think that fits with his character too. So maybe a little of that bled through. And finally, what's Ryan's biggest fear?
His biggest fear, I think, is that he'll never find out what happened to his girlfriend, and everyone will always think it was him.
Yeah, yeah. I think that sums it up really nicely. You know, folks, we've been talking with Alex Finlay, and Alex is you out there. Grab your copy because you're going to want to see this because I think you're going to be seeing this on some year-end best of lists. It's really well done, and congratulations, Alex.
Oh, well, thank you. High praise from you, Jim, and check out Jim's great books as well. They are true page
Thanks.
turners.
Thank you, Alex, and thanks for spending some time with us here on Authors on the Air.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.